Hello again, I'm Tuppence. I've got some of these really cute metal Christmas bezels, and unfortunately I only have one of them. This is pretty much all I have. My sister gave them to me, and if I've only got one of anything, I really hate using it. So I want to see if I can replicate it using some of this stuff. This is heat remoldable clay, sometimes known as thermoplastic clay. And I want to try and take a mould of these so that I can create them out of resin or UV resin, and then I can put them into some pendants. I don't want to put these metal pieces in the pendants. So let's see if I can make this work. I've just got this metal pan and I've put that on top of a heat pad to protect my desk. And now I'm going to use my heat gun and I'm just going to warm this up enough to make this soft. I don't want to melt it. Just make it soft enough to mould. Alright, this is nice and soft now, and I can mould it around with my fingers. They are still pretty warm, so I'm very glad that I've got my gloves on, but it's not too hot to handle. So I'm just going to roll both those pieces into a ball, and then I'll pop it back into the tray. I've stretched it out a little bit, and I'm just going to reheat it. And I want to make sure that the top is nice and flat. The bottom's going to be flat against the tray, but I need to make the top pretty flat as well. So I'm just going to squash this with a stamping platform, and that's just smooth that top out. Now I can try and push the piece in, and looks like that one's a little too big, so I'm going to try the Christmas tree. I'll just gently push it in, and then I'm going to take the platform and I'm going to push down on the top. That way I'm not going to get my fingers in there, and I can make sure that this is nice and flat and level with the surface. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to leave this to completely cool down and reharden, and then I can take the metal bezel out and try and cast a tree using UV resin. Okay, this is now ready to be demolded, so let's see if I can get it out. And I'm just hoping that I haven't pushed the tree so far into the clay that it is cut through to the back. It looks all right, so I'm just going to try and pop this out. The plastic is still pretty bendy, but it's not as bendy as a silicone mould would be. Well, I'm not going to say that that was easy, but I have got it out. So now I can see whether this is going to work as a mould, and can I actually get the UV resin in there? And if I can, will it come out as one piece? I've got some UV resin left over from another project. I've just added a little bit more in. It's a very pale blue. I don't really care what colour I'm putting in here because I am going to cover this with the chrome marker afterwards. But this is just going to help me see where I am going. Now this is going to take me a while, I should think, trying to get this in there. So I'm going to speed this up and pop on a little bit of music.
Candles flicker soft and bright on the tree this winter night. Golden glow and shadows play, bringing warmth on Christmas Day. Candles on the Christmas tree, shining bright for all to see. Light the night and fill our hearts with a...
Now I need to cure it. That's been cured from both sides now, and I need to see if I can get it out of the mould without breaking. And also, do I have a complete piece, or does it have bubbles in it? I did have a bit of a struggle trying to get it out, and I was trying to be really careful so that I didn't snap it. It is very, very thin. But I did manage to get it out of the mould in one piece, and it doesn't look too bad. The back is a little bit dipped, and there's some excess pieces that I need to trim off. I do have a few tiny bubbles, so I wouldn't be able to use this as a bezel. I wouldn't be able to stick that onto some tape and make it into a piece of jewellery on its own, but that's not what I want it for. Now that I know that it works, I think I'm going to have another go, and this time I'm actually going to use some silicone and cast a mould properly. So let's see how I get on with that. I've got some bezel tape, and I want to use that to stick my pieces to. This will hold them nice and firm. So I'm going to put the Santa down. He's almost too big to actually be on that tape. I'm going to press that flat with this block. That way I don't have to get my fingers on there. Get that nice and firm and stuck down. I'm going to try and do a few pieces. I like these bells. Now there is a right side and a wrong side. There is a flat side and a slightly more pointed side. So I need to make sure that I am putting the flat side down onto the bezel tape. Then I can use that block again to make sure it's firmly attached. Push it down. I'm going to separate these bits and I'll carry on adding some more pieces to the tape. I'm working on an old sticky cutting mat and I've got some contact paper, and this is what I'm going to stick my plastic cup to. That's going to be the barrier for my mould. So I'm just folding over one edge and sticking that to the mat. This mat is so old that it's lost most of its stick. Just try and make sure that I get that folded over without any creases. I want this to be as flat as possible. Just smooth that down. And then I can peel back the paper and reveal that sticky. I'm going to do the same on the other side, fold that edge under and stick that down to the mat. Actually, it quite happily is laying down, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. Now I can take my bezel tape with my bezel on it. I'm just going to cut the excess off of this. Make sure I stick that in the middle. Again, try and keep that nice and flat. Alright. So now I'm going to use this plastic cup as the barrier. It's just big enough to go around my bezel and leave enough room all the way around it. I've cut the cup down to size, and then I'm going to firmly press this onto the contact paper, making sure to leave enough room all the way around the bezel. This isn't going to be enough on its own to make sure that it won't leak, so I'll take my hot glue gun and I'm going to seal over the edge all the way round with a couple of layers of hot glue. I want to make sure that this has got no chance of leaking. And now I can mix up my silicone. I'm using the Nicpro Silicone rubber. So this is mixed 1:1 by weight, and that's something you need to check, that it is weight and not volume. And I might as well use the rest of the cups that I have cut off. So I've just put 2 of them together. I can zero my scales. I have no idea how much I'm going to need, so I think I'm probably going to mix about 90. That should be enough. I only need a very thin mould. It's quite a flat bezel. So I'm going to put 45 of part A. I'm going to try and be fairly accurate. A little bit more, come on. Okay, 45, there we go. And now I need to do the same for part B. So I'm just going to zero the scales. And again, I'm going to want 45 grams. If you measure in grams, that is the same as in mils. So 45 grams will be 45 mils. I've got 46 and that's fine, as long as it's not too far over. And now, just like resin, I'm going to mix this slowly for a good 4 minutes, make sure that it's all incorporated. Okay, I've mixed that really well, and now I'm going to add it to my cup. I'm going to pour it from a height in a very steady stream. This should knock the bubbles out and fill in all those spaces. There's quite a few tiny spaces, so I want to make sure that that gets in there and that there aren't any bubbles trapped. This is pretty good at degassing bubbles. So I'm just going to put enough to cover over. A couple of millimeters taller than the bezel. I've also done another cup and I've got quite a few pieces in this one. I'm just going to keep dividing this between the 2 cups until I have all of the pieces covered. And then I've got to wait 5 hours for this to cure and a further 24 before I can actually use the mould. So I will be back once these are ready. Alright, these are nice and set and ready to be demoulded. I did demould this one because I had a major leak I had to clean up. But I can start taking this one out. So I'm just going to peel that contact paper off of the back. Now you can peel off that hot glue and reuse the cup, but I'm not going to bother. It's cheap enough to get another one, and they're very flimsy. Just need to pull this bezel tape off of the back, and with luck it should pull out my metal piece as well. And it is. So I'm just going to go slowly because some of these areas are pretty tight. I don't want to tear this. This hasn't fully cured yet. So I still need to leave these for 24 hours, but it looks like I've got a pretty good impression. Yep, I can see the Santa on there. I don't know if you can. Alright, I've still got my bezel that I can use for something else, but I'm going to leave these for 24 hours and then I'm going to try and pour some of these pieces, see what I get. Now I've mixed a little bit of gold mica in with my UV resin and I'm ready to start filling in the Santa. The easiest way I found to do this is kind of just spread it on the surface. It's really hard to see where the lines are. So if I'm just putting some blobs of the resin on the surface and then I'm going to take a gift card and I'm just going to scrape that resin across the surface and it will fill in some of the holes. It isn't filling it properly, but it is making it a little bit more easy for me to see where I do need to go. And then I can take a chisel tip, just trace around some of the lines and smooth it in. And then I will have to take a finer tipped tool and then go round and make sure that there aren't any bubbles and that all of the lines are filled down to the bottom. That way I should have a nice gold frame once this is done. So again, I am going to pop on some music and speed this up for you.
Branches decked in silver and gold, stories of the knights of old, tiny flames in winter's chill, bring a peace that's calm and still. Candles on the Christmas tree, shining bright for you and me, guiding light so pure and true, Christmas magic through and through, with every spark a wish is made for joy and peace that never fades. Together now we sing and cheer.
Okay, I think that is about as full as I can get it, so I'm going to drop this up and down, try and dislodge some bubbles, and then I'm going to pop this under my lamp to cure. I'm just using a little bit of sticky tape to remove the excess resin that is on the surface of the mould before I try and take him out. And if it works alright and I manage to get him out in one piece, I will be using this Santa to make a Christmas card, and I will post that video as a short, so be sure to look for that. So fingers crossed that I can get him out intact and then I'll be able to carry on with the rest of my project. So I'm taking this out of the mould a little bit at a time. It is pretty tight in some areas and I don't want to snap it. Okay, that is successful, just needs a little bit of a clean up. I'll do that later, but now on to my main project. As you can see, I have made a few of them and I'm going to be using the snowman. So I just want to cut the bobble off. So just a pair of scissors again. It is thin enough that it will cut off pretty easily. I'm not going to need this. I'm going to be putting this in a pendant. So I'm making it into an embellishment. I can always use a file to help file that down, but it looks pretty good to me. So I'm now just going to go over the surface with a gold chrome pen. I'll let that dry and then I'll be able to put this in my pendant. Okay, I am still waiting for that chrome pen to dry on my snowman. In the meantime, I'm going to mix up some coloured UV resin so that I can put a background into this oval shaped pendant mould. I'm not sure if it's a pendant or earrings, probably earrings because it comes as a twin set. So I'm going to be using this beautiful blue mica powder and I got that from Mould. Just need to put a little bit in the UV resin. This is going to be the... I can't believe I just did that. I literally dipped my thumb in the mica powder. Let me just clean myself up and my table and I'll be back with you in a second. Alright, I am back to normal. Let's get this mixed in. Now I cannot fill in my snowman with colour by putting him on bezel tape because the back is just not smooth enough. But if I lay down a couple of layers of resin in a pendant mould, I can put him in a very thin layer of resin and that will seal the back and then I'll be able to fill him up with colour. At least that is my plan. So I'm going to mix up this blue, and this is going to be my background layer, and that should be enough. So I'm going to pour this into the teardrop shape. It's actually an earring, but I'm going to be using this not as a pendant or an earring. I'm going to be using this as a Christmas tree decoration for a very small Christmas tree that I have in my bedroom every year. So I'll just make sure that that gets behind the post. And this is only going to be one of a couple of layers that I'm going to be putting in here. Just spread that out. I don't need to go all the way down to the bottom because I am going to have kind of snowy layer at the bottom. So I'm just going to grab an empty cup and I can mix up some white. But actually, I'm just going to set this blue layer quickly, or at least the bottom of it, with my torch, because I really like the shape of that. Kind of looks like hills if I fill that in with white. So it won't take very long, maybe 20 seconds or so. Now I'll go ahead and I'll mix up some white mica. I'm going to be using a pearlescent interference powder, and that should give me a nice shimmery snowy effect. So get all that mixed in, and then I can just add that to the bottom of the teardrop and spread it out so that it becomes level with the layer of blue. And then I'll pop this under my lamp to cure. So for the next layer, I'm going to carry on with the background. I'll put some white at the bottom. I'm not sure I actually like the hills like this. So I think once I put the blue in, I am going to try and blend the two colours together. Just make sure again that that gets behind the post. And then I'm going to blend these two colours together, just mix them in the mould. Kind of like swirly snow. Yeah, in fact I like that. In fact, I'd like a paler blue at the top, so I'm going to start swirling some of this white in. Most of that blue is going to be hidden by the snowman once I get him in there. Again, I need to cure this. Okay, this next layer is a very thin layer of clear resin, and this is what I am going to set the snowman into. So I just need to spread that out, make sure it's nice and even, and let it self-level. And now I can add the snowman in place. And the resin is just going to be thick enough to seal the back and hold him on. And that way I can still add some colour into the areas. There's plenty of room. Just make sure that I get this in the position that I want and push it flat. And then I'm going to pop this underneath the UV lamp and I'll cure that in place. I'm adding a little bit of iridescent glitter to the white resin that I've used previously, and it's pretty much a case now of just painting and filling in my snowman. So I'm going to put some more music on and speed this up.
Candles flicker soft and bright on the tree this winter night. Golden glow and shadows play, bringing warmth on Christmas Day. Candles on the Christmas tree, shining bright for all to see. Light the night and fill our hearts with a glow that never parts.
Branches decked in silver and gold, stories of the nights of old. Tiny flames in winter's chill,
Bring a peace that's calm and still.
candles on the Christmas tree, shining bright for you and me, guiding light so pure and true.
Christmas magic through and through.
With every spark a wish is made,
For joy and peace that never fades.
together now we sing.
Okay, that is all painted, and now I'm going to pop that under the lamp for 5 minutes. I'm going to add some snow using a white acrylic paint marker. Just dot that around on the blue, and then I need to leave this to completely dry before I can add another layer of clear resin. Okay, that's dry, and the snowman is about level with the top of the mould. So I've got enough room to add another coat of resin, and I'm going to dome this slightly. So I use my silicone tool to make sure that it reaches all of the edges, that there are no bubbles, and then I'll cure this, and when I take it out of the mould it may need one more coat. I'll see once that's cured. There are a few areas that are slightly rough, especially around the edges and where that post has been, so I'm going to just file that back with a nail file, make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then I will give this a top coat. That'll get rid of any of the scuffs and I'll get a really lovely dome on this. And here it is all finished. It looks really nice dome, nice shine, and I love the way that that snowman is sitting proud on that background. I think this would be really cute as well with this candy cane. The bells and the Santa are obviously too big to go in this particular mould. They'd probably fit in a coaster or maybe a heart or something. I've also got a little gingerbread man and he would definitely fit in here as well. Well, I hope you've liked this video. If you have, then please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. It is free to you. You can scan the QR code on the screen and you will be able to find out what I'm going to make next time. I'll leave you with some photos. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.